Demiurge is probably one of, if not the smartest character in the Great Tomb of Nazarick and maybe even the entire Overlord series as well, often using his unmatched intellect to help Ainz to further his goal for world domination, while adding some calculated malevolence and sadistic touch to his schemes as well. A creation of Ulbert Alain Odle, Demiurge is an embodiment of his greatest vision of romanticized villainy, so in today's video, I wanted to take a look at Demiurge's character to learn more about his backstory and creation, along with his general build and other aspects as well. As usual, there will be spoilers for Demiurge's character and the story for Overlord, so here's a spoiler warning just in case. Now then, who exactly is Demiurge? Well, he is the 7th floor guardian of the Great Tomb of Nazarick and also known as one of the smartest NPCs, because if Albeda was considered to be the right hand of Ainz, then Demiurge would be the left hand of Ainz given how important he has been in helping to further the interests of Nazarick. But in order to better understand his character, we have to first look at his creator Ulbert, since his interests and passions were the foundation to much of Demiurge's overall build and settings. So to explain, Ulbert was someone who always enjoyed role-playing in Yggdrasil, and during his time in the guild Ainz Ulgaun, he was often the one where other members joined him to roleplay as villains or final bosses to Greek players attacking Nazarick. However, because Ulbert had a more romanticized perception towards villainy, he would constantly add a sense of theatrical flair to his evil deeds and the chaos it brought to other players. His dedication was so extreme that he was even called a Chunimbyo, a person suffering from middle school syndrome by his fellow guildmates, and it was explained in the light novel why Ulbert was so drawn to the idea of being a villain. He's what you might call a misanthrope, someone who has a general hatred, dislike and distrust of humanity, because when he was younger, his parents were killed while working on the production line, leading to him becoming orphaned, but due to the insurance payout being terrible, he had to struggle through life, which caused him to become disillusioned with the real world, resenting everyday society for the unfairness it offered to poor people. But as a result of his hateful personality, Ulbert would often come into conflict with other members of the guild, especially the ones he regarded as having a better life than him, like Touchme, someone who was considered to be very successful outside of the game, although thanks to Momoga, a person that Ulbert had the best relationship with, he still restrains himself to some extent around the other guild members. Regardless, as for how the points I have mentioned about Ulbert translate over to Demiurge's character, for starters, Demiurge was programmed to be the ultimate mastermind of malice, but similar to Ulbert, his cruelty and villainy were more theatrical and romanticized, often carrying a sense of brutal intelligence, efficiency and creativity. And what I mean by this is that Demiurge doesn't commit evil just for the sake of it. Instead, his behavior has some aspects of benevolence and politeness along with showmanship, like during Operation Johanna, after he killed the members of Blue Rose, you can tell the way he offered his condolences to Evil Eye had no shred of sympathy, and it was more so him trying to show the difference in strength between them to inflict the most amount of emotional damage and despair onto her. That wasn't all. Even Ulbert's misanthropy was represented by Demiurge as seen in the way he treats the humans of the New World. To give you an example of this, when Nazarick was transported to the New World, Ainz no longer had access to the high-level materials found in Yggdrasil, and afraid that existing resources would eventually run out, Demiurge was ordered to source for substitute materials that were native to the New World, so he would set up camp near the wilderness area of the Robert Holy Kingdom, which he called the Ranch or the Happy Farm as coined by the Overlord community. Here Demiurge would discover that human skins, especially ones taken from children, were able to produce up to tier 4 magic scrolls, but not wanting to waste the humans he captured, he actually devised a system where after skinning, to prevent them from dying, healing magic would be used on them to restore their skins. He really chose the most sadistic and efficient way possible to make his happy farm sustainable. But that's not even the worst part. For the children, Demiurge forced the parents to do the skinning, and the reason for this is because he apparently found the idea of torturing and breaking the human spirit to be enjoyable. Also, he wanted to test if he could domesticate humans, hence why he referred to them as Abelion sheep, which sounds horrible but quite on brand for his character. I mean, he literally has a karma value of negative 500, which falls under the category of pure or extreme evil, so it's not surprising that he has such a sadistic personality. Although he only behaves in such a manner towards outsiders, he's still quite considerate and respectful towards most of the NPCs in Nazarick. I would say the only NPC that Demiurge doesn't get along with is Sebas, because the latter was a creation of Touchme, so it's likely the bad blood between their creators was somehow transferred over to them. In any case, since Ulbert envisioned Demiurge to be the embodiment of evil, he needed a name fitting this image, but being a Chunimbyo, he would obviously pick one that is more unique, so he went with Demiurge, an entity found in Gnosticism, meant to represent the creator of the material world, or in some cases, a name synonymous with later depictions of Satan or Lucifer. That's because in Gnosticism, the material world created by Demiurge was said to be flawed and corrupt, while the spiritual world created by the Supreme Being was perfect and pure, which caused Demiurge to become envious of the Supreme Supreme Being, and despite the origin of the name fitting with the theme of Demiurge being a demonic being in Overlord, he doesn't share the same jealousy or resentment of the Gnostic version. Rather, he acknowledges Ainz and the other Supreme Beings as his masters because even when Ainz would give outright terrible ideas and plans, Demiurge always found justifications to overestimate and rationalize those ideas as some grand scheme that is beyond his own understanding. Adding to this, Yadabaoth, the outer persona the Demiurge often uses in the New World, would draw inspiration from Gnosticism as well. It's another term used to reference the devil, deriving from the Hebrew words meaning child of chaos or arrogant father, so it perfectly underscores Demiurge's role as a being of calculated chaos and controlled destruction. Aside from the association with the devil, Demiurge can also be used to describe an artist or craftsman, and regarding how this influences his character, when Demiurge is planning anything, he doesn't simply consider the most efficient method. Instead, he will always try to find ways to inflict the greatest amount of suffering possible because he views each of his plans as a canvas where he can flex his creativity and satisfy his own sadistic enjoyment. With that said, we can now talk about the role Demiurge has in Nazarick, and like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, Demiurge is regarded as one of the smartest NPCs in Nazarick, being on par with Albedo. But because they both excel in different areas, with Albedo's intelligence more geared towards administration, management, politics, and leadership, whereas Demiurge is better in more macro-level aspects such as conducting covert and military operations outside of the tomb. As for what Demiurge actually does, he's the second in command of the Floor Guardians, working in conjunction with Albedo to coordinate all Nazarick operations and managing the other NPCs. But not only that, he is the primary defense strategist as well, responsible for preparing countermeasures along with taking charge of the NPCs during critical operations. And this is quite a fitting role for Demiurge because his tactical mind and sometimes outright prophetic intuitions allow him to easily read between the lines to predict the intentions of others, like how he was able to realize that Princess Rana would be a good ally and Emperor Jignev had planned on betraying them. His ability to outthink opponents not only ensures the security of Nazarick, it also allows him to understand the thought process of Ainz, even when the intentions are unclear, so that he can execute the commands of the Supreme Being with brutal efficiency. Additionally, Demiurge was also the 7th Floor Guardian of Nazarick, which was specifically designed by Ulbert to contain everything that Demiurge would require to perform his duty for Nazarick. And of course, being the role-playing enjoyer that he is, Ulbert made sure the theme of the area would serve as a fitting backdrop for the demonic aesthetic of Demiurge, so it is described to be a hellish landscape filled with rivers of lava, ruins, and other fiery hellspawns. The main residence of Demiurge on the 7th floor is known as the Blazing Temple, and it's here that you can find other powerful creatures as well, like Gurren, a level 90 slime, and his personal guards, the 7 evil lords. More about them later. Though after being transported to the New World, his overall job scope will extend beyond his Floor Guardian role, such as being put in charge of the Great Library Ashir Banipal because of his experiments on magic scrolls, overseeing the newly established intelligence agency of Nazarick, and formulating plans to expand the influence of Ainz, just to name a few. Having explained Demiurge's background, let's go over his racial and job class levels to see how they reflect on his overall build. So as a level 100 NPC, Demiurge has a total of 35 levels put into his racial class, and of which were assigned to the Imp class, 5 in the Archdevil class, and the remaining 20 being unknown. The remaining 65 were allocated to job class levels with 10 points each put into Chaos, Prince of Darkness, and Shapeshifter respectively, while 35 were not specified. Now starting with his racial classes, we have the Imp race. They are considered to be small, mischievous, flying creatures that enjoy corrupting mortals for their masters, which are traits that Demiurge do possess. Also, the Imp race likely serve as a foundation for Demiurge to first acquire the baseline abilities he needs, so that he can further unlock higher tier racial and job classes as well. Then for the Archdevil class, according to D&D, they are considered to be extremely powerful high-ranking demons that rule over their own layers of hell, so based on that, the class itself could be a reference to Demiurge's status as a high-ranking demon and leader of his own infernal forces, which does align with one of his abilities called Evil Lord Summons. Now to quickly explain the ability, this basically allows Demiurge to summon a single powerful evil lord of around 80 to 90 level once every 50 hours, but because it's classified as a mercenary unit, it will disappear after a set amount of time. And what makes an evil lord dangerous is the ability to either summon another evil lord of a lower level or a swarm of lesser demons, meaning you can essentially stack multiple evil lords to create a demonic army, although summoned evil lords don't have access to this particular ability. I think that's why prior to the shutdown of YGGDRASIL, Ulbert had bought 7 permanent evil lords to serve Demiurge, but because they are not the same as the mercenary versions, they do have access to this summoning ability, which is quite fitting given Ulbert's vision of Demiurge being a demonic commander. Additionally, Demiurge's ability to compel weak-minded individuals or beings under level 40 to follow his command was likely another trait he received from the Archdevil race, because in D&D, Archdevils were said to possess the ability to twist and warp their surroundings along with the minds of individuals. Not only that, Demiurge has access to special abilities called Aspect of the Devil, which could be something derived from his Archdevil race, and it might be linked to his Shapeshifter job class as well. More about this shortly. Moving on to his job class levels, since they are more vague than his racial classes, I'll try my best to speculate on how they affected Demiurge's character. So the first is known as Chaos, and this could be inspired by the Final Fantasy series rather than D&D, because variations of Chaos have reappeared throughout the franchise as powerful demonic figures associated with reincarnation and endless cycles of violence, appearing either as a final boss or summon monster, traits that Demiurge do possess. And the job class likely allows Demiurge access to magic or abilities that can be used for psychological warfare and spreading despair onto his enemies. Next is the Prince of Darkness job class, and this could be related to his Archdevil race, as it serves to not only enhance his demonic background but maybe even his role as a demonic commander, giving him access to offensive spells like Hellflame and Hellfire Wall, or even Flames of Gehenna, which creates a wall of illusionary fire to encircle an area. And despite not being harmful to anyone that touches the flames, it does boost the attributes of all demonic beings inside, a perfect complement to his ability Evil Lord summons. As for the Shapeshifter job class, judging from the name, it likely provides Demiurge the ability to transform, although it isn't the typical full body type. Rather, he can only modify specific parts of his body to enhance his combat potential, and the adaptability it offers is actually a key aspect of his build, because he is able to tailor the transformation for specific situations. Also, like I mentioned just now, Demiurge has a set of abilities called Aspect of the Devil that could be connected to the Shapeshifter job class, because they are used to alter certain parts of his body to enhance his physical capabilities. For example, Archdemon's wrist will increase the size and strength of his hands, allowing him to grapple or crush enemies and wield large objects effectively. Razor's sharp claw will cause his fingernails to extend into deadly spear-like weapons. Tentacle wings allows him to sprout leathery wings that not only allows for flight, but he can launch high-speed feather-like projectiles as well. Stout Demon's gigantic arm can greatly enlarge his limbs to boost his physical strength. And lastly, 8-limb speed grants him increased move speed and agility. That said, for the remaining 35 unspecified job classes, they were likely distributed among classes that can be used to further enhance his role as a commander, summoner, and strategist, or maybe Ulbert simply added ones that complemented more of his theoretical traits, because if we look at the stats on Demiurge, it's clear that he wasn't really made for physical or magical combat. Nonetheless, the last thing to talk about is the equipment owned by Demiurge, with the most notable being his suit, which was actually gifted to him by Ulbert, and it's unknown whether the suit provided any offensive or defensive enhancements, but the sentimental value is definitely more important to Demiurge. Furthermore, Demiurge has an item called Armageddon Evil, which is actually a failed item created and gifted to him by Ulbert. It was meant to copy the effects of an unknown world item capable of summoning an unlimited amount of demons that will eventually consume the entire world. So Ulbert tried to replicate the effect by attaching the 10th tier spell Armageddon Evil into 6 magic gems, but because it was a failure, only 5 of the magic gems could activate, and the summoning wasn't immediate as well. Instead, the demons were summoned at different intervals. Even the demons were far weaker as compared to the world item. As for the sequence, in the first wave were 128 inferior demons, all less than level 10, then followed by 64 health size, which were all around level 20. Next, around 32 rotting demons at around level 30 will be summoned. 8 level 40 supplicants were the 4th to appear. Afterwards, 4 demons around level 50 known as war devils will appear in the 5th wave. And finally, the spell ended with 2 level 60 demons along with a single level 70 demon. In the anime, Demiurge had initially planned on leaving this item in the Restless Kingdom as a pretext for his invasion, but due to its power despite being a failed product, Ainz still advises him to keep it, instead giving him a weaker version to use. Anyways, now that we learned everything we can about Demiurge, how powerful is he? I would say he is average, because aside from his superior intellect and resourcefulness, he simply doesn't excel in anything else, but that's not to say he is weak. On the contrary, he is often regarded as a jack of all trades, master of none type character. Yes, being a level 100 NPC meant that he is already far stronger than the average person in the new world, but up against the NPCs of Nazarick who are more specialized, he won't be able to even compete with them. For example, he will not have any chances against a glass cannon like Cocytus because Demiurge doesn't have the defensive capabilities to withstand his attacks, or against a complete tanker like Albedo, his damage output simply isn't enough to penetrate her defenses. In a similar fashion, when it comes to a fight involving magic, he is insignificant in comparison to true magic casters like Mara and Ainz because not only was his mana supply smaller, the amount of powerful and useful spells available to him were quite limited as well. However, he is able to compensate for areas that he is lacking in with his intellect and the special abilities I mentioned, but ultimately Demiurge wasn't designed by Ulbert with the intentions for optimization and specialization. Rather, it's simply a role-playing build centered around his creator's vision of a villain who thrives on outwitting his opponents through careful planning, manipulation, and calculated actions. But yeah, that's my comprehensive breakdown on Demiurge's character, and hopefully I have managed to cover everything about his origins, abilities, overall build, racial and job class levels, along with his equipment. If I missed anything, feel free to let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you won't miss any of my future breakdowns. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again in my next video.